Hey guys, welcome to this market outlook on the dollar index. Now, as you guys know, I like to keep a proactive approach to the market. Um, I'm one of those market analysts that doesn't try to keep a solidified, biased view. Now, I believe this is important, especially if you want to be a profitable trader, but if you also want to be a great analyst as well. So if you want to be a trader, the main thing is being able to identify a trend and where the market could be going. These are key fundamental aspects that you need to know and you must get right, which kind of separates you from the crowd. And that's why I always suggest the Elliott Wave principle. Now, as you guys know, we have been pretty much right on the dollar ever since January 2021. Now, I mentioned to you guys the dollar's going higher. It's going much, much higher. And I believe this still to be true. However, since I did kind of perceive myself as being such a major dollar bull in the purpose of a major bull market, is there a possibility that we could see a major downturn in the dollar again, just like we saw back in March? Well, guys, the question is yes. Yes, we can. And to an extent, we shouldn't be surprised if such a downturn does occur. Now, in recent weeks, we've seen indices drops such as the NASDAQ, which has been more prominent. We've seen the likes of the US 30, which is the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and the SPX, which is the S&P 500, continue to climb, right? So there's a current divergence between indices. But looking at the dollar, we've seen the dollar steadily rise. And what there seems to me is that we're seeing a double zigzag form here. And every time I look at it, guys, it becomes a lot more clearer. So instead of us perceiving this as maybe a leading diagonal, for example, or instead of us perceiving this as maybe this is an impulse wave, we can also perceive this being a double zigzag, right? Now, our preliminary target for a double zigzag would be the 382 or the 38.20%, which is also in line with the wave 4 of the lesser degree, right? So here's what we consider our wave 4 limit. So it's around this zone. We expect some sort of reversal within this region. So we have our wave 4 limit. And this double zigzag, when you look at it, we've seen an ABC. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And where it looks like we're in the final B wave. Of course, you would expect this counter trending move here on lower time frames to form a smaller pattern. So the smaller pattern we'll be looking at here, guys, is very simple, right? Now, again, we're looking at some sort of, well, quite possibly an A, B, C, move to the downside before we see another rise higher. So before we see another impulse higher of the same magnitude. So this would be an impulse wave here, very clear impulse wave. And to put this into perspective as well, today, as this video is being released, is NFP. So using wave analysis, we can kind of forecast that the market may be poised to make a rise higher before a move lower, which we shouldn't be surprised about if it does occur, right? So what I'm saying here is, guys, is that there's a strong possibility for this being a B wave here for a move to the downside before we see another substantial rise. Now, let's just say I'm correct, guys, and this is instead a double zigzag, and we see a termination point around 94.5. Well, what does this mean? Well, this means two things. Firstly, this means that the whole entire narrative for a bull market in the dollar is completely terminated, right? That's number one. Number two, this means that there's a fantastic opportunity to get on the right side of this dollar trend to the downside. First of all, we know this is a strong downtrend and we know this is a 5-wave impulse wave, right, in manifestation with this kind of scenario. Again, let's just go back onto the daily time frame, for example. Let's get rid of this, keep you on the hourly. So we go onto the daily time frame, but then we go into the weekly time frame, guys, right? We go onto the weekly time frame. What we have here is still our same entire perspective. Now, I've spoken to you guys before about having two different scenarios and two different biases. One main scenario and one alternative, just in case the market does something we do not expect it to do, right? And right now, we're currently in that phase of the market where we could see pretty much a rise or fall, right? Now, so far, guys, again, this looks to me as a double zigzag pattern is forming. So again, as I said, if we are correct, then the chances are, guys, we are setting up for another impulse wave to the downside, right? Fairly simple. It means we're setting up for another impulse wave to the downside, and this would be, of course, in similar magnitude as the impulse wave we saw throughout 2020, since March 2020. So would I be expecting a yearly decline like we did see last year? It's hard to put a time scale on how long this impulse wave can last for if it does come true. However, if it does come true, guys, then there's a very good chance that we could see a devastating decline all the same. What does this mean? Well, for pairs such as Euro USD, guys, again, I have bullish scenarios. This would mean, right, that we could very well see EURUSD vault higher, right? This would also put EURUSD into greater perspective. Now, looking at EURUSD again, this would then print the opposing view of the dollar index is looking at. We can then have a look at what GBP USD is doing as well. So let's just remove some details, right? Keep this onto the hourly time frame. We then can have a look at what GBP USD is doing. And we can say, okay, GBP USD is in a fourth wave, right? It's in a corrective wave, and we're going to see a move to the downside also. And we then may be looking at something like this, right? So we could be seeing something like this manifest right in front of our eyes, a double zigzag and an ABC pattern here forming before we see a nice sharp C wave or Y wave, however you want to see it. So again, this puts GPUSD also into perspective, and this is providing us with an opportunity for move up and for move down. The same would apply also, guys, for AUD USD as well. So we have our, of course, bearish perspective here. Let's move back, right? I think it's on the Awanda chart, or is it on the FXCM? Great. This would put AUD USD into perspective as well. And as we can see, AUD USD is currently falling right now. What are we looking at? Maybe a 618 to 786 retracement before we see some sort of move higher manifest. And then we see a move lower, right? So we're looking at some sort of move like this, right? We're looking at something like this. Simple zigzag, simple three-wave structure. Same, guys, would be for NZD USD as well, right? So we're looking at similar structures for not just all the other dollar majors, but for pretty much all dollar majors, in fact. And this is important, guys. This is very, very important that we understand this. Now, as you can see, again, we'd be looking at, of course, we have a truncated fifth here. This is ABC. We're looking at a similar sequence here as well, right? We're looking at a similar sequence here for the majority of dollar majors, and we could see the same kind of move manifest, right? Move up, move down, right? Just like that. Move up, move down, right? And then we have the likes of USD Swiss franc as well. So I've done some analysis on all dollar majors just in case we see an entirely different perspective. So what would we see on USD Swiss franc? Well, we can class this as an ABC with X as a double zigzag. And we have class this as wave A, and this is a double zigzag, or maybe it's a triangle. We don't really know yet. And then wave X, and then wave Y, wave B, 50% retracement before we see a move higher for wave C, right? Taking us to 0.95. So this puts all pairs into perspective. We then have USD CAD, just to wrap it up. I think I did a chart on, I think it was FXCM. Again, similar perspective. I still believe we're in a 5-wave sequence, but then this would equate to maybe possibly wave A, right? We can still class this as a wave C. And last but not least, guys, we have USD JPY, right? So we have USD JPY, which is looking something like this, with the ABC, X ABC, maybe a 78.6% retracement, right? Debatable whether this is a logarithmic or if you just see a spike or whatnot or whatever. It doesn't really matter, right? It don't matter right now. So now looking at it from this perspective, guys, we've just provided ourselves with two things, right? We've prepared ourselves for if the market goes higher, we know how to capitalize on it. If the market goes lower, we know how to capitalize on it. Simple as that, right? We've pretty much put ourselves in a prime position to capitalize on whatever the market may do here. So this now begs the question, when could we expect this possible dollar downturn to occur? Well, I'm putting a time scale of quite possibly next week. We know we're still in a strong dollar bull cycle, so I'll put it down to next week, right? I wouldn't be surprised to see it manifest next week. We have the lack of Bitcoin, which is currently consolidating right now. It's ranging. And do not be surprised, guys, to see this come true, right? You probably wonder what does this mean for that gold and silver commodities? Well, commodities is a little bit different. Commodities, whilst they're influenced by the dollar, are also influenced by yields, real yields, also by indices and other macroeconomic factors that we're not going to get into today. So price action on gold and commodities, precious metals, is something we'll look at in a different video. But this is just primarily onto the dollar. So I hope you guys actually take value into this, especially looking at it from a wave principle perspective and being ahead of the market, right? Again, if you've been reading up on the wave forecast, you already know that we have our bullish bias. This now gives us added firepower to prepare for what could be a devastating wave in the dollar. Now, if you do see a devastating wave in the dollar, what does this mean for USD JPY? Well, this also means that we could see a major sell-off in USD JPY as well, which is something I would definitely be expecting in the near future. So if you remember at the start of the year, I was looking at USD JPY for one of my picks, and as by the looks of it, it's looking like it's going to manifest. So it's reaching that 78.6% retracement, as I talked about time ago. And if we get that reversal, guys, do we have ourselves an opportunity? I hope this video was beneficial. I hope you guys have taken value into this. This is a very, very important video. So if you can, maybe even share it. And I will catch up with you guys on future videos. All right, guys, take care.